want you guys to understand there are a couple different ways you can approach a person. If I wanted to create a state of fascination with Barbara, and I looked at her and said, "You will be fascinated with me. You will hang on every word," she's going to laugh at me, okay? Now, I could try to create a fascination by saying, "You ever been really, really intrigued by someone? You ever meet someone like a teacher who is just, you knew that this person had such a passion for what they were doing, that everything they said painted vivid mental images in your mind. You found that their words were not just sounds that came forth from their lips, but they were guides. Their words were guides to your own experience. So with each word you heard, you could go into that place where you really, really could form mental images. And you begin to really lock into this person and become so intrigued, so fascinated by the mastery and the control and the genuine passion that they brought to the subject that you just knew you wanted to learn more. Well, have you ever felt something like that? Yeah. Now, see, I was reading this article in Psychology Today, and they were saying when a person can feel a state of fascination, when a person can feel that sense that you're about to receive something you can really use, something that interests you, what happens is it's like the rest of the environment just disappears. Your entire world becomes this experience you're having of learning. And they said in this article that learning is about opening to something new. I'm just curious, have you ever learned something recently that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I'm sure I have.
Yeah? Okay. Now, I could pattern like that, okay, and begin to create a state. And my guess is that you were going into a state that was good.
Yeah.
That you were starting to have certain responses physiologically.
Making me think.
Making her. She was doing more than thinking. She was maybe feeling a little.
Yeah, feeling.
Yeah, you're feeling a little. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she was imagining some things. Right. Your imagination was engaged. Now,
very good.
okay. Now I could do that, but just as easily. That was like sort of like a canned pattern, but it wasn't canned. I was describing my own experience of a teacher who I remembered. That's how I was able to do it. I went into the state I wanted her to be in. Now, the thing is, that state's anchored in. If I wanted her to go back into that state, I don't have to use that tonality now. Right? Are you there? Yeah. All I have to do is go back into the state I was feeling. Did you hear what I said? The state I was feeling when I set the anchors. That means I go into the state first, right? I have to go into the state first. But if I do go, you can go too. Now I'm also setting other anchors. See? Now, I can do all that. But you know what? I have to go into the state first myself. I have to think, okay, what state do I want her in? I want a state of fascination. Then I think, what does fascination feel like to me? And then I remember an experience I had and I describe it to her. Through the description, she gets it. Do you understand? But what's the key? I have to have the state first. That's one way to do it. But I want to do it a different way. I want to create that state of curiosity, intrigue. The problem with what I just did is I didn't learn a single thing about her, did I? No. I didn't learn anything about her that I can utilize later. I don't know anything about her as a person. Yeah, she went into a nice state that you guys could see, and that felt good for me. I got a little rush, all nice. But what have I learned? But what have I learned about her as a person? Nothing, and I don't like that. So I want to take a different approach with her. So let me ask you, do you mind if I ask, what do you do for a living?
Sure. I'm a writer, an author.
Ah, okay. Cool. Now, my response is one of genuine curiosity because I like creative people. This is not feigned. I really enjoy it. Let me ask you a question. I know as a writer, people face certain challenges. There's always the challenge of selling your work and all that other stuff.
Amen.
Amen to that. So I'm getting some rapport. I'm pacing her world by demonstrating verbal understanding. I demonstrate understanding, so I get rapport. I am curious about this. What is it about writing that you find the most fulfilling?
I like to get information out, and I like to express myself.
You like to get information out, and you like to express yourself. See, I think that's very important, and part of that process is understanding what information is important enough to pay attention to. And also, when you look at information, there's some that's just not important. You have to know what to ignore. True?
True.
So I'm curious, how do you know when you're gathering information about a subject what's important enough to really pay attention to feel that, yes, this is true, and what you're going to go, I don't think that's important enough? How do you know?
Good question. I guess it's if I think it's life transforming, or if it can change people's lives for the better.
Okay. So information that's transforming is something that you have to get out.
Yes.
Okay. So when you look at information, how do you evaluate? If someone presents information to you, how do you know whether it's going to be life transforming if it's just a bunch of gobbledygook that's a nice airy-fairy idea but doesn't apply?
Good point.
See, well, listen to her answers. I'm demonstrating some intelligence in the questions I ask. I'm saying, given that this is her task, the way she said yes, I was pointing out, she didn't go, yeah. She went, yes, he is. Because I know when you go to a party and tell people that you're a writer, mostly they say, well, what have you done? Or really, what do you write? Or, I'm not asking that. Mm-hmm. I'm asking a different level of questions. Ask questions about her process. You hear what I said? I'm saying, granted that she's a writer and what she's told me, she says she has to get information out. That tells me she doesn't write fiction. It tells me, I'm saying to myself, what is the information she's telling me? Tell me about the challenges she faces and what she does, and how can I get curious about that? So when you listen to a woman speak, you want to ask yourself the following questions to yourself. What is the information she's telling me? Tell me about the challenges she faces, and how can I ask her questions? How can I get curious about that? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't say she writes fiction. Had she told me she writes fiction, I would have said, really? That's so interesting, because I know when you write fiction, part of it is developing the plot, but part of it is developing the characters. So in those two, which one of them do you focus on first? Which do you think is the most important? But I didn't ask that, because she didn't tell me she writes fiction. You may write fiction too, I don't know. You understand? So I'm demonstrating. Am I using canned patterns on her right now? No. Am I having an effect even though I'm not using canned patterns?
Yes.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting here, but the questions are good ones.
Very good.
If a man asks you these questions at a social gathering, over a period of time, you might begin to think, well, this guy is different. Or maybe not. Would you tell me the truth?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so I am
Engaging.
interested and I am curious.
Mm-hmm.
I really do want to know. When you evaluate information, how do you know if it's life transforming? How do you know it's going to be like gobbledygook?
Well, again, like I go with, do I think it'll change people's lives for the better?
Uh-huh.
Can they use it?
Mm-hmm. Now, she just repeated something. She leaned on something very hard. What is she leaning on? Change people's lives. And she also said the word transform. Change people's lives for the better. Okay. Now, that tells me something about who she is and what's of deep value to her as a person. Is it of deep value of her to a person to be admired for how talented or clever she is? Well, that may be in there, but is that her greatest, most important value?
No.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I was reading a book, and the most wonderful thing about this book is it offered information that totally changes people's lives. I mean, I looked at people who read the book, and you could see the transformation that took place in them because the author was able to have the intelligence and the courage to get the information out. Now, just talking that way, it's engaging her at an interesting level, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hang on, just wait. Am I using canned patterns? Are we doing blowjob, Discovery Channel, any of that? There could be room for that. There could be room for that later. I'm being serious. Okay, I'm asking questions. I'm asking questions because my curiosity is stimulated. So let's go with this. Have you ever, so when you write books, have you gotten feedback from people that have said your books have transformed my life? They've really helped me change?
I have.
What does that feel like for you? What's that like?
Feels great.
Yeah?
Feels great.
Well, like, tell me about one of those. How did they communicate that to you? I'm just curious.
Well, people say that it expands their minds. They look at things differently.
What word did she just lean on?
Expands.
Wow. Have you ever had your mind expanded in a transformational way that changed your life?
Yes, it's happening as we speak.
Now, interesting. So you want to know how to hear her trance words. I think that, so now look, she's lit up. This is what I'll do. In the beginning, I don't go with standard patterns. I ask questions, I feedback. Isn't that great? And the only thing, have you noticed some people are like books? Here comes the metaphor. Some people are like books. Some people are like a book filled with dry information. It doesn't do anything. But other people are like this volume. You open this volume and you immediately feel yourself expanding as the transformational value of what it is they get out to you just connects with you on a deep level. And you know, the more you read this book, the deeper you take in the information it offers, the more you feel that expansion, that transformation of your own life, and you just know this has an amazing impact. You know? And you just have to keep coming back to this book over and over. Every time you read it, you find something new that you can use to expand yourself. I love those experiences in life where you feel something expanding. You know?
I bet you do.
I bet. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
Would be a great experience. Can you feel that? Look at her turn color. Now you see, you know, the interesting thing is, I don't have to do it to you. I can look at me and go. You feel your horizons expanding with some people, you know. So now I've really got it going. Now I've got some information I can use. Now I can go back to fluff. So who invited you to the party? I'm just curious. I'm going to fractionate. Why do I fractionate? Because I got her in this joyous, great state. Now I'm going to take it away a little bit. I'm going to do a takeaway. Because every time I put her back into it, she'll go into it even more expanded. Okay, I'm also setting anchors. That's an anchor. Yeah, okay, chipmunk. Okay, so I would go to fluff. I go, so who invited you to the party? Play with me. Who invited you to this party?
Joe.
Joe, okay, cool. So, yeah. So how long you been writing? I'll ask typical dumb guy question. How long you been writing?
About 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. You sold anything?
Yeah.
What was it that you sold?
A couple books.
Couple books, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you make any money off it?
Not too much.
Okay. I go back into patterning stuff. I'll start talking about what I do. I don't talk about what I do first, generally speaking. Sometimes I do. But why? Because now forget about performing for people and tell me the truth. If a guy talked to you about this, to you in this level, would you feel he's communicating with you in a special way?
Yes.
And then you'd feel a lot more open to hearing what he had to say. You'd feel a lot more receptive. Absolutely. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I'd say, what would be, if we were at a party and I spoke to you in this fashion for like 10 minutes, what would be typical for you to then turn around and do?
Then I'd ask you something about yourself.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you do for a living, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I teach charisma enhancement for men.
Oh, well, how do you do that?
Well, I teach men how to understand and to look at a deeper level in a woman's mind. And to, first of all, ignore their own responses of lust and all that. And instead, really open their eyes and their ears. And I also teach something I call blissnosis. Now, it's not hypnosis. Actually, it's a very rare form of non-sleep hypnosis. It's a form of hypnosis that involves no sleep whatsoever. None. Instead, it involves waking things up. Waking up desires, passions, potential, possibility, talents that are socially repressed or for whatever reason you get busy in your life so they stay slumbering. And it's also about asking two questions. It's about asking the question, what's the difference between what you think you want, what you've trained yourself to accept as the best you can have, and what would really truly expand you, what would really truly transform you and make a difference in your life? I'm incorporating her own words into my standard pattern language, you see? And what's the difference between what you've trained yourself to expect, what you perceive you're expecting, what you perceive you're ready for, and what would be expanding, what would be transformational, what you know would make a huge difference. And finally, it's about finding a different place in your mind. It's about finding a place where you don't need external validation. You don't need the external validation of what your friends would approve of, or society, or books would tell you. You don't even need the external validation of what you yourself have been used to wanting up to now, but instead, you find a place inside where you just trust this feeling. You trust that you're seeing what it is you most desire, and you feel right with it. And one thing I've learned is when you're seeing what it is you most desire, all you have to do is feel right with it, to go for this. And make this yours before it becomes someone else's reward, before someone else is expanded by it.
Like a bliss teacher?
Yeah, that's me. You understand?
Yeah.
What did I do? I started out by finding about her. I took her terms and incorporated them into my patterning. That's speed seduction as it is today in the year 2000, not as it was in 1993 when we taught you to recite patterns in a certain order. What's the beauty of it? It allows me to really get to know who she is as a person. I get to really open my eyes and ears and discover her and learn something from her. I don't just want to hop on someone. I want to be able to learn who they are. I want to know, who is this person? Who is the unique human being in front of me? Not who's the legs, who's the boobs, who's the human being. Now, believe me, I delight in female parts. They're wonderful. Thank you for creating them. They're great. But focusing on that will get you nowhere. If the average guy would come up and go, wow, you look hot tonight. Where'd you get the outfit? Blah, 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 blah. I know you've heard that before, right?
Probably have.
Probably have. Feels kind of contracting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not very nice.
It's kind of shallow.
Kind of shallow.